Welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and I'm thrilled to bring you honest conversations with dads and daughters, sharing heartfelt stories, actionable advice, and real daughter perspectives that will help you be the best girl dad you can be. Jess, Carroll, welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. It's been a long time coming, and this is already just going to be a great conversation. I know it.
I mean, I love listening to all your conversations. You're so great at leading these podcasts. And so I just appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you, Jess. Okay, so let's just kick things off. I know so much about you, but the audience obviously doesn't. So please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and your family.
Yes. So I am Jess, and I design and facilitate transformational experiences for entrepreneurs and business leaders. My newest passion is actually curating events for business leaders and their young adult children, mainly between the ages of like 16 and 30. And this passion really came. So I've been putting and hosting events for the past, 2.5 years. And some of our members would come up to me and say, "Hey, can I invite my daughter? She's 22 years old. She's just out of college. Has this entrepreneurial spirit." And I would say yes. And it was so amazing how the value of the room only increased. The members leaned in to really help mentor the next generation. And the young minds, they brought such a fresh perspective, fresh energy. And so I realized that there was a gap. Why can't the business leaders and their young adult children learn together in the room? So, and this actually this whole idea stemmed from my dad growing up. Dad would always invite me on his business trips. Like I remember we went to China and he invited me, and just being in the room, listening to those high level conversations, being around that energy, I learned so much. So that's my newest passion, is really recreating the rooms where it's the next generation and the business leaders learning and growing together. But at the core of everything I do, it's really all about connection. That's what I learned from my dad. I had 22 incredible years with my father, and he taught me so much. He taught me just how to view life, how to prioritize my time, and how to define legacy. And I learned a lot from losing my father. I lost my father when I was 22 years old, and he was 52, and he passed from complications of prostate cancer. But I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for those 22 amazing years with my father.
Oh, Jess. Every time I hear your story, it just makes me want to just hug you and love you even more, because you are just such a sunshine, and I can tell so many amazing qualities came from your dad. And I didn't get to know him, but he's clearly made such an impact on you. And for those who don't know Jess, she just is a radiance. She lights up every room. Her leading events is absolutely her calling, because it's all about connection, as you mentioned, and you're just so good at making everyone in the room feel special and bringing people together. And even, the first day I met you, it was because of Nick, who you used to run events with, and he kind of brought us on to work at a booth together. And so we met this one day, and it was just instant connection. There's that word again. And I felt like I knew everything about you within like 5 minutes, and we just had a blast. We were hanging out all night. And then someone asked me, how long have you known Jess? And I said, oh, a few hours. And they were like, what? You guys look like you've been friends for years. So you just have a way about you that is so giving and loving. And I just seriously cannot say enough good things about you. But again, I think this came from this love that you were taught with your dad. And yes, you lost him, and I know that you would do anything to have that back, but I want to talk about the positives of your dad today, and just, the first memories that come to mind when you think of him and the impact that he's had on you.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's so many memories that, I mean, I really do feel that I am channeling my dad every day. He was my person, he was my best friend. And there's this one memory that I actually have a picture kind of, in my bathroom and in my condo and on my desk. And it's a picture of my dad and I scuba diving. One of the last trips my dad and I went on before he got sick, we went to Turks and Caicos with my family. And my brother was a professional hockey player, and he had to have surgery on his ankle. So Austin, my brother, and my mom Jennifer, they kind of just hung out. But I really wanted to go scuba diving and I had to get certified. So my dad and I went on this adventure, and instead of just leaving me to get certified on my own, dad was there every minute. And then on the last couple days, we did dives together, and there's this picture of us underwater, tanks on, just we took a picture, and I actually just got goosebumps thinking about it
Oh,
because that is like that's how I think of my dad. He was so present in my life, and he made everything fun. Like, you know, it just he was my best friend, and so that was just a moment that I just always remember to appreciate life now because tomorrow's not promised for anyone. And at that time, we did not know dad was sick, and I had no idea that was going to be my last trip with my dad. And I not only got to get certified with him, but I got to go diving with him, something I'd always wanted to do. And he was there every minute of it, and it's just a moment I'll always cherish.
oh. Yeah, I think, us daughters, we really care about those micro moments and that time together, that play. You were saying your dad
Mhm.
always made things fun. It's all those little things that matter the most to us. And I love that that is the theme of your story. It's like
Mhm.
that play. And I was just talking to another gentleman on the podcast, and he said that there's the three P's of fatherhood. It's provide, protect, and play. And I hadn't really thought about that being such a big emphasis because I think men are naturally driven to that provide and protect characteristic.
Mhm.
But yeah, the play is so important. And from everything you've told me and what you just shared, it seems like your dad was so good about making sure life was fun and cheerful. And I see that so much in you. I mean, and your mom too, but you just you just have fun with life, and it's contagious. People want to be around you because you bring a lot of really great energy and a lot of fun and play. So, yeah, what other besides that, and that's a huge one. What other elements of your dad do you kind of see living through you?
Man, I mean, people who knew my dad and now know me are like, "You are such your dad." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a compliment, thanks." But dad, he was an entrepreneur, and his life motto growing up was go big or go home. My dad, he just said yes to everything. Like he was the ultimate energizer bunny. And I'm an entrepreneur. My nickname actually all through college was Yes Jess because I
Oh,
just kind of seized every opportunity and said yes. So I definitely that personality trait of my father lives on in me. With that being said, and kind of going back to college, my nickname being Yes Jess, I will never forget this weekend. And it was such a turning point in my life. It was my sophomore year, and that's when dad got pretty sick. And so I decided to fly home pretty much every weekend. I was going to school in California. My father was living in Arizona. And so I just wanted to spend as much time with him. And there was this one weekend, it was the start of my sophomore year, and I walk in and I am just so excited to share all the exciting things going on in my life. Dad, I got my dream internship. I'm working for E News. I'm on the board of my sorority. I am dating this new guy. I'm taking extra classes, and I'm just going on and on and on. And I'm expecting my dad's typical response, which was like normally, Jess, that's my girl. Go big or go home. I'm so proud of you. And this one time, it was not that. Instead, my dad, I remember it so vividly. He grabbed my hand and he looked me in the eyes and he said, Jess, I am so proud of you, but please slow down.
mm,
And I'm like, whoa, like, where's my Energizer Bunny dad? Like, slow down. He never said those words.
Mhm.
And then he grabbed my other hand and he looked me just deep into my soul and he said, Jess, I was a workaholic. I was addicted to the next deal. I had an unrealistic expectation of what I thought I could do. And I think it was that stress of saying yes to everything that caused me to get cancer.
Mm.
And then he said two words that I will never forget. He looked me in the eyes and he said, Jess, I'm sorry. And at that moment, I realized I also need to slow down and I can't say yes to everything. And I can't have the nickname Yes Jess anymore. And it was a pivotal moment too, because later that night, I actually went to my mom because I was caught off guard. I'm like, why is my dad sorry? Like, why is my dad saying slow down? Like, what? So I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, did dad do anything wrong? And she said, Jess, of course not. Like, you know, your dad, he's healthy. He eats organic. He works out every day. He runs marathons, triathlons. My dad would play hockey with the boys every night. And then she paused and my mom, she finally told me the truth.
Mm.
And for any dads out here listening, I really want to have you listen to this because my father, he he never went to the doctor. And he would actually almost brag about not going to the doctor. Like when I was young, I remember getting sick and dad would just say like, here, have a handful of vitamins, eat an apple, go for runs, sweat it out, you'll be good. And the truth is, my dad went to the doctor too late. When he actually had symptoms, he couldn't empty his bladder and he had to urinate all the time. But my dad was too busy to recognize the symptoms. He
Mm.
also, like a lot of other entrepreneurs, he thought he was invincible. He thought he was so in tune with his body, and he just never went to the doctor. And when he finally did go in and he got checked, it was too late. He was
Mm.
told he had stage 4 prostate cancer, it had spread everywhere, and he was fighting for his life. And that was just such, still to this day, I catch myself taking on too much and getting overwhelmed or having too high of an expectation, even for myself, that I have to pause and remember that moment where my dad looked me in the eyes and said that he was sorry. And for any father out there or anyone listening, prioritize your health because, and if you don't do it for yourself, do it for a loved one because I don't want anyone to have to ever hold the hand of a loved one, look them in the eyes and say that they're sorry because they didn't prioritize their health. Um, so that was just a pivotal moment in my life. And I still keep that entrepreneurial spirit from my father. I still go big or go home, but I am now honest with myself and check in with myself and make sure that I'm not overstressed and I am slowing down and I am able to recognize symptoms if they are there.
Thank you, Jess. Oh my gosh. My heart is like pounding right now. I'm like, I'm having a wave of emotions,
Oh.
but I so appreciate you saying that. I think those are two extremely important reminders. Number one, really checking in with your mental health, right? Because that
Mhm.
manifests into physical health. That's been proven time and time again, especially even with Dr. Don Wood, who was on this podcast previously and who you know personally, but he, can speak to all the ways that your internal, mental health will manifest into physical problems. So,
Yeah.
number one, yeah, please take care of yourself, everyone, especially you, Jess, because you really are so go, 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 and you take on so much. And it's an amazing quality, but it also has its limits where we need to, pause and take a moment and make sure
Mhm.
that everything is balanced. And then the other amazing reminder is to go to the doctor and just continue to be checking up on your health because Even if you're eating great and working out and doing all the right things, there's all kinds of other complications that can arise. And I don't mean that to, scare anyone. But it's an important fact of life. And we're all really lucky to live here and have this human experience. But I think there's also these pressures that get put on us in today's society, right, to perform and things like that. And that's why I think going to going out in nature or going backpacking, reflecting on what's really important, all the answers will come to you about slowing down, spending
Hmm.
time with family, and all those kinds of things. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You just have to, we all want to live here long. And just like, my dad, he would do the due diligence in his business. Like he knew the numbers and dashboard of every deal and every investor, but he learned too late to do the due diligence on his own health. And the interesting thing is you can actually be fit. Like my dad was fit, but he wasn't healthy. And so make sure that even if you think like, oh man, I feel great, go in and just still do the due diligence on your health. Be the CEO of your own health. Because if you know the numbers, then sometimes people are like, well, I kind of don't want to know my numbers. Like they're kind of worried to get the numbers.
Mhm.
But as long as you know your baseline, you can make improvements. So
Right.
yeah, just
Yeah,
go in
that's
and get checked. Yeah.
That's a really good point. Like, turn it into some sort of positive where it's like, okay, I'm going to go learn my numbers, but they're to inform me how to be better.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be the end all be all. It's like everything can be improved. But the earlier you go in to figure out what that baseline is, the better off you're going to be. So, yeah, that's another important reminder.
Hmm.
Um, so I would love to hear from you for every dad listening. If you could provide them with the one thing that their daughter actually needs from them, what do you think that would be?
I would say, I learned the hard way that tomorrow is not promised for anyone. And so, as a daughter, we don't need more from you. We just need more of you.
Mm,
We need the quality time. We need those memories going down and scuba diving. We need the idle walk on a Sunday morning, just having a conversation. We just want more of your time and quality time, not you on your phone or distracted. And so I would say that, as a daughter, we just want more of you, not more from you. And really prioritize your time. Like I'm a huge believer in getting crystal clear on what your core values are, what really matters in your life right now at this current moment, and then making decisions that actually align with your core values. And if you make decisions based on your core values, then that's going to help you prioritize your time. So if family is important to you, take a look at your calendar. Is family actually present on your calendar, or is it jammed with business and late nights, late, work dinners and maybe work catching up on the weekends? Or if your value is play, like make sure that you schedule play. One thing that I loved that my parents would do is almost every week, my mom and dad would have date night and they would go dancing. And it's one thing that I probably miss the most is my parents would dance everywhere, like in the kitchen. They were kind of like too much PDA actually sometimes, but they would dance everywhere. And they just had, my dad really taught me how to love. My dad loved with his entire heart. I mean, whether you were the doorman or, you know, anyone, to know him was to love him because he made people feel seen and heard and loved. And he loved my mom so unconditionally. I mean, really, like, till death do you part. My mom was so in love with my dad. It almost took her 10 years to finally be able to, like, go on a date again.
mm,
And and they were best friends. Like, they would play. So, as a daughter, that also is a great example that if you can show us how to love unconditionally and how we should be treated by a man, and keeping your childhood spirit by dancing in the kitchen with your kids around, like, that's the greatest gift we could ask for, is your time and an example of love and how we should be treated.
Yes. I could not have said that better myself. That is so, so true. Top 2 things for sure if you wanna impact your daughter, and I love the relationships that your mom and dad had and how much that has impacted you and what you've been looking for in a partner, and I think that's just one of the best gifts that a dad can give his daughters is just that expectation of what it's like to be loved, and it seems like your dad did such a great job of showing you what love is, one, through your individual relationship, constantly playing with you and making you feel special and seen and heard, but also his relationship with your mom and setting the bar high and making sure that you saw genuine connection because from a daughter's perspective, and this is, like psychology 101 for men and women, but we feel secure and safe when we have parents who are strong, have a strong relationship.
Mhm.
And so, especially when daughters are young. So to look up and see that is so huge for the girls. And yeah, I would love to hear a little bit more about that and just how maybe some specific examples of how your relationship with your dad and how he treated your mom has impacted kind of your expectations or the way that you've maybe chosen different men that you've dated throughout life.
Yeah, I mean, so my parents, I was an oops baby. So they got my mom got pregnant very young, and they were both young, and they had me, but they didn't let their childhood spirit, their fun energy, die. And so I just remember growing up, mom and dad were so fun. My dad made everything fun. Like, if we were making breakfast Sunday morning in the kitchen, we would start tossing eggs, and if an egg cracked, it like didn't matter. He just made everything fun, even like making breakfast in the morning.
Mhm.
And um but yeah, I would just say, and one thing that we did a lot as a family, and I feel like we were just like the four best friends. Dad would be, on the ice with my brother playing hockey. My mom would be, not only just attending my dance recital, but she somehow would like start a women's dance team and actually be up on stage. So they never let their childhood spirit die. They were so in love, and they were just best friends. And the four of us, we had so much fun together. We did a lot traveling. My parents were super athletic. So we would go on family snowboard trips and summers at the lake. Like, the lake days are some of my cherished moments too. I remember dad just, he would be wake surfing, and we would have music playing. Pretty sure my dad taught all my friends how to wakeboard, how to ride a bike, how to snowboard. Like, he was just that guy that, even it extended even to my friends. So those would be like the biggest lessons learned
Mhm.
of that I learned from my mom and dad.
Oh, I love that. And going back to the other topic that you mentioned that was so important, which is just the presence and more of you, not more from you. I love that quote. Um, I think there's a lot of distractions in today's world, right? You have your email on your phone, text messages, calls, everything can be or anyone can access you when you have your phone in your pocket or in your hand, in the room even. So this I think I just want to serve as a reminder for the dads listening that when we want more of you, it's your undivided attention and we'd rather take 5 minutes of no distractions, just eye to eye talking than a few hours where the TV's on, your phone is in your hand, you're like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh," like,
Mhm.
kinda listening, kinda not. So, yeah, I wanted to say that because I think you really nailed it, and it's it's something that attention is an amazing gift, and
Yeah.
I think that the more that your daughter gets from you, the more she doesn't go looking for it elsewhere, and it's a wonderful thing to set your daughter up like that.
Yeah, and there's two things that I want to bring up. Growing up, family dinners were we had we had family dinners, every well, I mean, I'm not going to say every night, but family dinners were very important to us, and we had absolutely no phones at the dinner table, and we would sit and we would do this exercise every family dinner, and we would go around and we would share our worst best. The worst thing that happened to us that day, and we'd always start with the worst, and then the best thing that happened to us that day. And it was just a great way that, you know what, every day you're going to have challenges and you're going to have something to be grateful for. And even if you have to
Mhm.
really think about, like, okay, what am I grateful for? Because I had to do like all these, shitty things today, you can always find something to be grateful for. And even now with the events that I put on, that's an important question I ask. And I don't phrase it worst best. I now say kind of rose thorn or
Mhm.
other things, but it really made me appreciate sitting down, having family dinner, zero distractions, and having deep conversations. And I think nowadays, the sitting down and actually even eating it's still so important that
Mhm.
it's a great way to raise your children to value sitting down and appreciating the food you're eating, having zero distractions, and having deep conversations where it's not just surface level.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is with how to prioritize your time. Every year, us as a family, we would every January, we would actually make a vision board, and we would put all these pictures of what we wanted to accomplish that year. And then we would set our five core values. And our core values would change year to year based on, the chapter of life we're in. And then my dad, he taught us to actually make decisions based on your core values.
Mm.
And then we took it even one step further because every day you are thrown new opportunities or even people to connect with or surround yourself with or challenges and or business deals or projects to take on. And I learned that if they didn't align with your core values, we would chuck them. And the Carrolls, we actually took it one step further and we actually created a chuck it bucket. And
Of
it was
course
this,
you
it,
did.
it was this, I know. And it was this bucket and it would live on our kitchen counter. And especially when dad got really sick, we, we kind of only had one core value as a family, and it was dad's health.
Mhm.
And we were presented some opportunities, my mom, my brother, and I, and we had to really assess if we could say yes or if we had to chuck it. I remember my brother, his only picture on his vision board since he was like 4 years old was a hockey player. He just wanted to be a professional hockey player. And my dad coached him growing up. And at age 14, my brother went to my dad and said, Dad, I just got asked to represent Team Canada in Moscow. Will you come and cheer me on? And my dad, he had to chuck it. He couldn't go. He was too weak. And my 14-year-old brother won Team Canada, and his best friend, his hockey coach, his person wasn't there to cheer him on. Uh, I was asked to study abroad and be the red carpet reporter for Entertainment Tonight, a dream opportunity for me. And this was at the Cannes Film Festival overseas. I had to chuck it because I
Mhm.
didn't want to spend that time away from my dad. My mom, she was writing a children's book series and she was on book number 3. And she had to chuck that book, writing the third book, because she had to become my dad's full time caregiver. And we had to chuck some really hard things. But I am so glad that I chucked that because I got to spend more time with my dad. And when we were chucking these things, we didn't know he was going to die. And going
Yeah.
back, like if I went overseas and that took away the last couple days with my dad, I would be so heartbroken. And so when you're crystal clear on your core values and what matters right now at this point of your life, it helps making decisions a lot better. So moral of the story is just get clear on what matters most, what you value, and then make decisions based on your core values, and then chuck everything else that doesn't align. The people, the projects, the late nights at the office, the constant, you know, dinners that you're probably attending that you don't want to be at, the people in your life that drain you, the habits. I
Mm,
had to chuck chuck texting and driving. It's so dangerous. Chuck scrolling at night. Chuck maybe too much TV time. Chuck stress. Chuck fear. Chuck overwhelm. Because
mm.
those things don't add anything to your life. And if you chuck them, it creates space to now fill more time for what you really do value.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So good, Jess. That is such an important point. It's like, what's the quote? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking, but basically it's like
Yeah.
where energy goes, wait, what flows? Something flows.
Yeah. It's like where your energy goes, movement flows or something.
So, yeah.
I know we mentioned Dr. Don earlier,
Yes.
Dr. Don Wood, and he is such a believer in manifestation and even being very aware of the words that you say. So
Mhm.
instead of labeling or saying, oh, I'm never going to get this done, or oh, I'm so stressed, those words that you put out there become your reality.
Yes.
No one's perfect. Let's be honest. We all have, insecurities and self doubt and all that. But if you can just be more aware of what you're telling yourself, even what you're telling your loved ones, and especially if you have young kids, they are listening to everything. So if you raise your
Mhm.
voice or if you are upset and if you're taking your anger or your stress out on your wife or your husband, your kids without you knowing are listening. So just, really pay attention to the words that you're saying, who you're surrounding yourself with, and where you're spending your time.
Mhm. So, so true. And I love the idea of doing kind of an audit of what's going on right now, how you're spending your time, but also where you want to be. So,
Hmm.
just a few weeks ago, I was in Park City with my family, and Max, my husband, he facilitated this summit, is what we called it. But it was such an amazing experience. And one of the things that we did, it actually was the first thing we did, is we started by identifying our core values as a family. So we each chose 2 to 3 words that really stood out to us, and he got on Amazon a giant whiteboard, so he put it to the Airbnb, and then some exo markers. So he was kind of facilitating and writing down everything. And then after we all had all of our words up there, we kind of looked across the board. We saw, okay, some of these kind of mean the same thing. Which one do we like
Hmm.
better? And like you said, words have meaning, and some are more powerful than others, some are more relevant than others. So we kind of narrowed it down to 3 words. And it became what we decided was going to be our focus moving forward, which is huge because it's easy to get distracted. We've all got lots of things going on, but like you said, we were able to decide, okay, does this align with our core values as a family, or is this something that we didn't say Chuck, but now I'm going to say it. We need Chuck.
Yeah.
So, I really love that exercise. And then I think you can also go one step deeper, which you kind of already mentioned, but look at your calendar. Are
Hmm.
you aligning with these words, with these values? And is there a way to swap some things out or maybe add some time with the family if that's one of your values, which if you're listening to this podcast, I would just assume is one of
Yeah.
those top values. But I think, yeah, it's really important to do that because life just goes by and if you don't take intentional action,
Hmm.
then life just happens to you, But if you carve your path and you decide where you want to go and you set goals and values and you say no to things that don't align with them, then you are creating your path. You are carving your life. And it's just leading with a lot more intention. So, yeah, thank you for that reminder. I love that idea.
Yeah. And it's actually wild that when we are forced to slow down and reassess, like what you said, reassess our life and where we're spending our time and just do kind of like a little re audit, it is amazing that sometimes we think that the busier and the more we do, the more successful we're going to be. But sometimes actually slowing down and creating more space for what's really meant to enter your life is the most powerful thing you can do. Like, just
Mhm.
a quick story, just recently, past Thanksgiving, I got in a head on car crash and I broke my collarbone. And it forced me to slow down. I
Mhm.
literally was in a sling. I couldn't move. And I reassessed my life. And I looked at where I was spending my time, the people I was spending it with. And I was working with someone, an amazing guy, nothing bad to say, but it no longer aligned with my core values. And
Mhm.
I wanted nothing more. Still to this day, I want nothing more than to find my love and create a family and build a life together. And so I actually ended our working relationship with him because I knew it was taking my time away from creating this life that I really
Mhm.
want and finding my love. And I was dating someone and I really, really liked him. And I broke up with him. And it was hard because he was still unsure if he wanted kids.
Mhm.
And I was also at that time presented a business opportunity where I could take over a mastermind group and run it fully as my own business. I would have to take on, a big chunk of debt to do it, but I was actually really excited about this opportunity. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, oh my gosh, my dream opportunity was just presented to me. And I'm going on and on about, this is going to be great. It's what I've always wanted. My own mastermind. It'll be my own business. I'm going to run it exactly how I want it. And my mom asked me such a profound question. She goes, Jess, 1 year from now, who do you want to be?
Mm.
What do you really want? And my answer was simple. I'm like, Mom, I want love and I want to start a family. And as I said that out loud to her, I paused and I was like, oh my gosh, if I take on this business opportunity, it's going to take, I'm going to have stress. I'm going to put a lot of my time and energy into it. And it's going to take away from what I want nothing more in this world than to
Mhm.
find my person and start a family and build a life together. So, you know what? I said no to that business opportunity. And since November, I froze my eggs. And I mean, talk about go big or go home. I froze 31 eggs, which according to my doctor is a lot of eggs. And I met someone. And I met someone just the old-fashioned way, in person, and he wants two things. He wants to marry the love of his life and start a family. And so and on top of that, business opportunities are just like landing in my lap. And so really and I had to pause for December, January, February, like 3 months, and it was so hard for me to actually
Mhm.
pause. But look at what has happened on the other side. So it is hard to say no to opportunities and it is hard to actually slow down. But when you do, and when you actually create space, the most beautiful things can enter your life without you even trying.
Hmm. Wow, yeah, and this is, like, full circle from the beginning of our conversation where your dad held your hand and told you to slow down. It
Mhm.
almost feels like, in a very spiritual way, he's kind of looking out again from above and saying, "Hey,
Yep.
slow down." Like,
Mhm.
if you don't do it consciously, then things get put in place to force you to slow down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that to be honest, you just nailed it. That was the hardest part of my entire accident. It wasn't the pain from breaking my collarbone. It was the fact that I had to get in a car crash and break my collarbone to actually slow down.
Mhm.
And so again, those two words that my dad said, holding my hand, I'm sorry, and slow down, I constantly have to remind myself because it is hard. So I hope that, moving forward, I don't need to break any more bones to slow down and I can just, on do it myself and just check in and say, okay, do I need to slow down? Where am I spending my time? And what do I need to chuck in my life?
Absolutely. Yeah, please no more broken bones, Jess.
I know.
But no, it is. It's a really great reminder, and, it's there's another quote similar to that, but basically it's like, if you don't choose your health, then your body will do it for you, where,
Hmm.
you'll get sick because you need to rest, right? If you don't sleep and you're working so hard, you'll get a cold, and now you have to be in bed and relax because
Hmm.
your body knows, and we have a way of pushing ourselves to limits, and in some way there's good ways to do that, right? And to challenge yourself, but there's times where when you're going overboard, and I'm really proud of everything that you've done to really consciously slow down and re-audit your life and make sure that you're prioritizing the right things that you value, and it sounds like everything is working out exactly as it should because you've done those things.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's
Of
like that
course.
quote, when you have your health, you have a million dreams, but when you don't, you have just one. So
Yeah.
and also your personal health, like dad's health, it didn't just affect my dad. It affected my mom, my brother, and his business partner, his family. So again, it's your health it's a ripple effect for all the people in your bubble. So again, check in, take care of yourself because it is a ripple effect and it affects more people than you think.
Mhm. Yeah, if you're not gonna do it for you and you
Mhm.
don't feel like you need to do that, do it for your family. Do it for your daughter. Yeah. Looking forward, I wanna hear from you about the legacy that you wanna build that you think your parents would be most proud of.
That's a great question, and I talk a lot about legacy in some of my keynote talks, and I ask the audience what their definition of legacy is because there's no right or wrong definition of legacy. My definition of legacy is that it's actually something you live every single day, that you are constantly creating your legacy with every decision you make a day. And I just looked up this stat and it kind of blew my mind that the average person makes around 35,000 decisions a day. So, like, how do you make 35,000 smart decisions a day? That's a very complicated question.
Right.
And I just always go back to what are your core values? What do you value? Make decisions that align with your core values. And that's how you live your legacy every single day. My dad, he somehow crammed 100 years into 52, but every person who met my dad still to this day talks about him. Like my dad's legacy lives on in every person he connected with because he prioritized his time. He took summers off just to play with his kids. And I know not everyone can take a chunk of time off every summer, but maybe just, one night a week you designate to your daughter and you just play or watch her dance and you pick her up and you guys get ice cream. It can be something so simple, but just really prioritize your time and every decision you make is you're creating your legacy. So, my dad, he installed in me from the lessons I learned while he was here and from losing my dad that health has to be number 1. Has to be the most important thing that you value. Number 2 is time is so precious. It's one thing that no one can get more of. So make sure that you're checking in and you're spending time where time should be spent with what you value the most. And then number 3 is, you know, constantly chuck the things that don't matter.
Mm.
At the end of like when my father passed, no one knew how many cars he had, how many boats he had, how many deals he had. None of that mattered. What mattered were the memories, the the summers at the cabin, or my girlfriend saying that Phil was the one who taught me how to snowboard, and I met my husband snowboarding. Like thanks to
Oh.
Phil, I would have never met my husband. That's what matters. So
Mhm.
that's what I learned is that your legacy is not something you leave behind. It's something you're living every single day. And if your life or if your legacy ended tomorrow, would you be proud of what people would think of you and say at your funeral?
Hmm. That is so powerful, Jess. Thank you. Yeah, and I feel like with this idea of kind of auditing your life and making changes and the habits that you stack every day to build your legacy, we're wired often to look at what we can add. What can we do more of?
Mhm.
What can we do, over here and add to the schedule, and I can spend more time doing this and more time doing this. But something that you've spoken about today that's really important that I really want to nail down or zoom in on is what can you do less of too?
Yeah.
What can you remove from your plate that's really important to do so because it gives you space for things that matter? What is
Mm,
not in alignment with your core values? And who is not in
mhm,
alignment with your core values? There are people that are maybe draining you, and it might be hard, but what positives can come from removing them or removing these things or these time sucks that are taking you away from what really matters?
mhm. 100%. And also, there's no better time than now. So if you have been, oh man, like I need to go to the doctor, but I just, next week or next year, do it now. Or if you've been wanting to reach out and tell someone that you love them, or if you've been holding back how you truly feel, or if you've been holding back on maybe starting a project because you're waiting for the perfect website or that perfect pitch, there's no better time than now. And if you have the right people in your bubble, no matter what challenge you're faced, you can overcome it. And that's where
Mm.
it goes back to how we started connection. If you are surrounded by the right people, dad would always say, I remember my dad was just the biggest cheerleader. And I was born with just this father who was so positive. And I remember coming home and, being upset about something and dad, this happened. And he would always say, Jess, the Carrolls, we don't have problems. We have opportunities. What is the opportunity in this situation? And it was never winning or losing. It was winning and learning. And so I would just say that there is no better time than now. You can start now. If your health isn't where you want it, start now. If you've been wanting to start a project, start now. Or if you've been wanting to maybe exit a company so that you can spend more time with your family, do it now. Or if you're are exited and you're like, what do I do now with my time? Maybe don't buy another company and buy time with your family. So that I would just leave that. There's no better time than now. And especially, I always say, leave no words unspoken. End every night by saying I love you, because tomorrow's not promised, and you always want to end your day in gratitude and expressing your feelings with the people you love the most.
Mm. So good, Jess. I think that is the perfect ending to this amazing conversation. You have been such a wonderful guest, as expected, but seriously, I'm so grateful for you as a friend, as a guest on this podcast. But you just give so much light to this world, and your dad shines through you. That is certain. But I just want to thank you for all the words of encouragement and all the great advice that you provided for the dads listening.
Well, thank you, Madeline, for having me on and for this podcast. I just think it is so important for girl dads to recognize how much of an impact they're having on their daughters and how much their daughters just crave more of them and more time and more play and more memories. So thank you for everything that you're doing. All of the people you've interviewed have shared such amazing nuggets of wisdom, and this has been fun. I wish we could do this every day.
I know. Oh, well, thank you, Jess. Thank you for tuning in to Girl Dad, the podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow girl dad. I read every review and truly take your words to heart. To close out, remember, your intentional moments make lasting legacies. See you next week.